I'm back. All right, folks. So we're getting ready for the lectures to start. So right now we're just waiting. So hang tight with us. Little train behind us. Let me see if I can turn this train. It's pretty cool, actually. Oh, because I'm not over there. Oh, that's cool. There's a little train behind us. To get this around, let me see. Camera. There's the train right there. So that's pretty cool, huh? So we're gonna turn this around so that you can see the guests when they come in. I'll do that in a second, I guess. Oops. Yeah, so while we're doing that, let's do a quick run something up from one of our other shows real quick.
The Bipolar DM Show, a show about Dungeons & Dragons, indie writing, and living with a mental illness. Watch us live on Saturdays at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on WLFE-DB.com, where we interview guest speakers, authors, and subject matter experts in the areas of mental health, living well, and role-playing games. We're proud supporters of Safe Space. For more information, be sure to visit WLFE-DB.com. Watch us live on Strim TV Variety Unlimited channel. Also, visit our Facebook page at Bipolar DM and see us on twitch.tv/TheBipolarDM. Our webpage is www.thebipolardm.com. There you'll find more information.
Buddy behind me, getting ready for the lectures. We're just waiting for the vendors. So, according to Wisconsin, we'll have different speakers coming up. If you want to interview with them, and I'm not sure how this is working. I'm just gonna kind of follow along and see how that happens. But he's dancing like Elvis over there. But he does not want to quit his day job. He just doesn't. So we're waiting to see what's happening here. I guess you go. But yeah, we're definitely waiting for her to show up. So hang tight.
a small hollow in North Carolina. There have been several Bigfoot sightings.
Hunters may need to be on the lookout for something other than deer when they hit the woods this week.
He hadn't been spotted recently, but according to these pictures, the legendary Mothman is back.
The number of UFO sightings is soaring tenfold over the past 25 years.
Now, she's not talking about people. She is talking about ghosts hanging around what some say is a real-life haunted house.
You're listening to Paratalk Radio with Ted Wolf and Psychic Cindy on paratalkradio.com, a member of the WLFE digital broadcast family. Paratalk Radio is your one stop for all things paranormal, the unknown, and the supernatural. Join us every Monday night at 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Central for discussions and guests on topics such as ghosts, hauntings, Bigfoot, UFOs, and more. This broadcast is rated M for mature and is intended for listeners over 16. The topics, views, and opinions expressed on our show may not necessarily reflect the views or opinions of Paratalk Radio, our hosts, or our sponsors.
So here I am. I'm back. I'm just reading some spooky music, that's for sure. Sure, that's all about folks. For sure. So, but you can wait on so many commercials, or waiting for some. Wow.
Hey guys and dolls, this is Casey DeVille, the better half of DeVille Inc., Baltimore, Maryland. If you're ever in Baltimore, stop in and see me and Tony. Invisible Bree, 5920 Eastern Avenue, Baltimore, Maryland, 21224. Give us a call if you're in the area, 410-400-9641, or look us up on the web at DeVilleInc.com. DeVille Inc., where we specialize in you.
Try again, buddy. Try again. Yay! Okay. Oh yeah! Good job. Oh.
Oh, yeah. Life just got sweeter now that WLFE-DB has merchandise. Show your support by purchasing your t-shirts for WLFE, Paratalk Radio, Inside the Drag Closet, and more. But it doesn't stop there. T-shirts, coffee mugs, tanks, buttons, cloth bags, and more. Go to WLFE-DB.com. On the top bar, click on the merchandise tab and bam, there you go. You got merch. Support the shows. WLFE-DB.com.
You're listening to WLFE DB Radio. Now back to our program.
folks, it's just the beginning. I'm not sure what's happening at this point. They're supposed to be doing lectures. They're supposed to start 18 minutes ago. Not know what's happening. Trying to get on the recording right now. What's going on? So I don't want to have to restart this live broadcast. So if you just hang out with me for just a minute, I'll be right back. So enjoy the music. But okay, so from what I understand at this point, Mr. Ernie Atwell from Paranormal Inc. Is going to be coming in right now to do a lecture, intro, or whatever the case may be. So give us just a check a second here. I'm going to turn this around and go from there. But yeah, he's coming in now with actually Mike King from the Ghost of Shepherdstown as well, which is kind of cool. People are starting to come in and sit down. So we'll get the ball rolling. And Mike King is pointing at me for some reason.
Brought y'all here today.
Beautiful.
Was that pretty good?
That was pretty good. You get a gold star for that one. There we go. Yeah, because it is raining. Yes, I agree. I like the ring too, so I happen to admit. Wow. That's cool. Yeah, perfect. Trying to get it figured out there, Lori? Get that figured out? Oh, okay. That's okay. My machine says I don't want to work. It just says it doesn't want to work. Yeah. Yeah, we'll see how long it lasts.
Can you guys hear me okay? Yeah. Because I'm not the loudest speaker. Well, first, thank you guys for coming out. We've been really looking forward to this event for quite a while. For those that don't know me, my name is Ernie Atwell. I'm from Maryland, and good friend of Miss Lori Johnson right here. But I'll give you a very brief history on myself real quick, just to set the stage. Back, I guess I was in elementary school. I had this real deep fascination with spirituality and religion, and growing up Roman Catholic, living with strict Roman Catholic grandparents. I mean, I was surrounded by it. I went to Catholic school. I was an altar boy, all the church events, all that good stuff. Well, as time went on, I developed this obsession with spirits. And everything I've read about, everything I've researched, everything I tried to dig up, it all involved angels coming to visit, what you would like to call prophetic visions, things along those lines. It wasn't until paranormal started to come mainstream and it was on every, TV channel you put on, that I started to realize, like, hey, this is what I've been researching, except it has to do with everyday people. Now, back in 1999, I had some friends of mine that got in touch with me and they said, hey, we're going to go on a paranormal investigation and we know you like this stuff. You want to come? So I'm like, heck yeah, now I can put what I think I've learned to the test and see if I can come up with anything. So we stayed local in Maryland and went on an investigation, and it went great. But it wasn't until 2004 when I had an experience in Gettysburg, Pennsylvania, that kicked this into full time for me, so to speak. Now, around 2011, I became a member of the Paranormal Research of Maryland. We would research different haunted locations, go out and investigate them, and gather all our data and all that good stuff. But as the few years went by, I decided that I wanted to go in a different direction. Okay, I was starting to see things from a different side than the rest of my team. And I like educating people. So I spoke with my best friend, who is now my tech guy. He was a member of our team, and he knows that I'm technically challenged when it comes to computers and cameras and all that. So he said, "Hey, if you're going to go solo, I'm going to come with you, and we're going to make this a two-man team. We're going to make this work." And immediately we started doing seminars and lectures, and we currently debuted our third seminar. Our first seminar back in 2017, it was called Step Into the Paranormal. That's where we got the title of our radio show, Step Into the Paranormal. We like to say it's like a paranormal 101 course for people that are enthusiasts and interested in paranormal and all that. We travel around to events like this, but we host a lot of public investigations where, the general public who's never been on an investigation or who has been on an investigation but is new at it, they'll come get their tickets and we'll lead them on an investigation, let them use our equipment and all that. So that's a little bit about us. Like I said when I introduced myself, I'm recently being featured on Travel Channel's Haunted Hospitals. And the way I got involved with that, I'm getting ready to start my 25th year. I do have a job. I'm getting ready to start my 25th year as a cop. Okay. Now, for those who may have seen the show, I know Spring you saw it. I wanted to tell my version of that. Not saying that the TV version is not true, but it was a little more detailed. Due to time, they didn't get to. So basically what was happening was, it was 2014 and there was a hospital close to our police station, and it had various parking lots. And, being a midnight shift cop, sometimes you have to find little, what we call holes. We go to a hole to sit in where we do our computer work and all that stuff. So it was about this time of year, and it was a nice cool night. And I used to sit up on an elevated parking lot, because when you pull into the hospital, it kind of splits and then you can go up a hill. It's a cardiovascular center. So I was sitting up there one evening, and it was about 2:30 in the morning. And I like to limit my caffeine to a certain time of night, and I'm done. Well, it was a very slow night. It was almost eerie. We weren't getting no radio calls. There was no one out on the street. And something don't feel right. So I started getting a little tired. So I said, "Hey, I'm going to run down to the local 7-Eleven, get a cup of coffee to get me through the rest of the night." Now, when you exit out of the hospital parking lot, there's a winding road. It takes you from one side of the city to the other. And we travel it 50 times a night. I could drive over my eyes because it's a shortcut when we're responding to calls. The hospital sits up on a hill. It's a very steep hill with rocks and woods, and then there's a footpath and a creek. When you come out of the creek, there's a big garden. On the opposite side of the road is all rocks and a hill, and there's big, pretty homes that sit up there. So I was traveling down the road, had all the windows down, and just as I go to bear around the corner, and this is one of those roads where you kind of have to look down the road to make sure nothing coming at you or wildlife crossing. As I'm starting to bear left around the road, I don't know where this woman come from, but there was a woman appeared in front of my car. And I actually swerved my car because I honestly thought I hit her. And if I would have hit her in a police car, that's a whole different, chapter of the book, so to speak. I got out of my car and, I checked under the car and I looked around, and I had no idea where this woman was. I looked at like the headlight section of my front quarter panel to make sure I didn't hit her or anything like that. Now, this was before body cameras, but we did have in-car dash cameras. When we activate our emergency equipment, all our cameras automatically come on. but it never occurred to me because I was shooken up. If I would have turned those lights on, it starts to record 30 seconds prior. Because that way, if I get in a car accident and my camera automatically comes on, it records 30 seconds prior so it can catch the incident. So I may have been able to catch her on that, but I wasn't thinking about it because I thought I was just involved in an accident. So based on the area, there was only one way she could have got away. And that was over the guardrail, through the brush, and through the tree, which there was no brush knockdown, nothing like that. And she couldn't have been that quick. But all I remember, it was a lady in a hospital again, and she had long black hair. And I remember black under her eye. She hadn't slept. But when she was standing there in front of my car, she had her head down to where I couldn't make out her facial features. So about a quarter mile from where I saw her is a bridge. And I backed my car up underneath that bridge, and I just sat there. I must have sat there for, an hour and a half before I got another call. I was just hoping to see her again or figure out, maybe it wasn't a person. So eventually my shift ended, and for the next couple of days, it was on my mind. Well, about a month later, I had just gotten home from work in the morning, and I went to bed, and I was off the next 2 weeks. My cell phone. Now, I'm one of those people that if I don't have your phone number in my phone, I'm not going to answer. You can leave me a message. I don't need car insurance, and I don't need my warranty updated. I recognized the number coming in as the hospital, okay, or the parking lot. And the only reason I knew that, I used to work off duty there, providing security. So I was like, I might as well go ahead and answer the phone, because my first thought was, oh no, someone I work with got shot and they're in the hospital. So when I answered the phone, it was a young man on the phone. He said, hey, is this Ernie? Do you remember me? He said, I work security at the hospital from 3 to 11. I was like, yeah, I remember you. I know who you are. And he goes, hey, I heard rumor you're into all this paranormal stuff. And I was like, yeah. And I kind of chuckled. He said, well, next time you come to work, can you please come by the security office? I need to speak to you. And we get these calls all the time. So I'm like, yeah, sure. So I returned to work that Friday night, and as soon as roll call was over, I went to see him. And he said, look, man, I don't know what happened, and I just want. He goes, I'm not even sure if I believe this stuff you talk about. He said, but the parking lot up on the hill where the cardiovascular office is? And I'm thinking to myself, yeah, that's where I sit. So I couldn't wait to see what was coming next. He said, I was sitting up there the other night in the security vehicle. He said, and I had my clipboard on my lap, and I was writing. He said, I heard a girl's voice say, are you okay? He said, and when I looked up from the clipboard, he said there was a lady standing in front of the car. He goes, now she looked like she was in a nightgown, and I'm not sure if she needed help. I said, so I put my clipboard down. When I grabbed the handle of the door, she was gone. He proceeded to get out of the vehicle, because it's a straightaway. She'd have had to walk down the straightaway and down the hill. And he goes, man, I don't know what to say, except I don't know where this lady went. I don't know where she come from. She asked me if I was okay. He said, when I looked up, she was gone. So it didn't occur to me until about a week later, when he described the lady that he saw was the same lady I saw. The only difference was I saw her down the bottom of the hill when the accident. So now my curiosity really peaked. A week after I spoke to the security officer, I was back on day one. And I got a call for a mentally ill person. And I gave him a transport to the emergency room. So I walk into the emergency room, and there was a not elderly, but older lady. She was sitting there in the waiting room. And I hear her yelling, Officer Atwell, Officer Atwell. Look. And I said, I'll be with you in a moment. Let me escort this man to his room. So I went back, and she says, I don't know if you remember me. She said, but you were at my house. And I was like, I did remember because 3 months prior, I got a call for someone in cardiac arrest, and whenever they called 911 for an ambulance, police officer. And I remember her from responding to her mother's house. And she was actually in the emergency room again with them. And she told me, she said, I have to ask her something. Now, I don't know how she found out about my paranormal career. So she said, but a few weeks ago, she said, you know, the cardiovascular building up at the top of the hill, and it's starting to become a hot spot. She said, I was up there. My mother had a heart appointment, and she was the last appointment of the evening. She said, and I was sitting out in my car checking my emails as this lady runs her own business. She said, I heard a lady talking to me. I said, well, what did she say? She said, I couldn't make it out. It was mumbling. She said, but when I looked up, there was a lady standing at the front left of my car. She said, I actually jumped and let out a little bit of a scream. She said, when I opened my car door and jumped out of my car, she wasn't there anymore. And I asked her, like I asked the gentleman, I asked her what she looked like. And she described the hospital gown, the long black hair, and she went into it looked like she had sunken in eyes. Needless to say, I very rarely sit on that hill anymore, but I travel that road. And the reason I'm telling this story today is because since 2014, I must have traveled that road hundreds of times. And nothing has ever happened except one time, and what you'll see on the show. A few weeks after I saw a lady, I had been riding down the road, and I carry one of those long flashlights. And I keep it next to me in a little caddy on my seat. So I was trying to pinpoint exactly where I saw the lady. So as I was riding down the road, as I was approaching the bend in the road, right where I saw her, that flashlight was on my car. And I can't even tell you because it reflected off the ceiling, so I automatically thought my dome light was on for some reason. So I reached up and it didn't go out, and I opened my car door and shut. But then I remembered our car doors, the lights don't come on when we open our car doors for safety reasons. And I realized that it was my flashlight. So now I was really going crazy trying to figure this out because so much time had passed, and it was like a one-time occurrence. I'd never seen anything, heard anything ever since. So a friend of mine who lives in Frederick, Maryland, he was trying to form a paranormal team and asked me if I would help him out, train him on some equipment and this and that. So he and his brother-in-law met up with me while I was working on it. So I was like, sure, bring the equipment down. I'll show you, what it does and how to use it and all that. I said, but here's where I want you to meet. And they met me up on that top hill where this all originated. Now, for those of you that like the paranormal and have seen the shows and possibly even hunt it yourself, when you photograph something, you take more than one photo. So not really telling the guys I was talking to that night what I was doing, I started snapping photos. And right where the two people said they saw the lady, I shot a series of 3 photos. In one of the photos, which was photo number 2, I had a mist in the picture. They come down like this. It looked like it was twirling around and heading back out of frame. It wasn't entering in photo 1. It wasn't exiting in photo 3, only in photo 2. And, there were no smokestacks. We weren't smoking cigars or cigarettes. So, can I say that that's the woman or that's a spirit? No, but it was just very weird where these two people saw this lady. I captured this beast. So the reason I'm bringing this story up, like I said, but I got sidetracked. Nothing has ever happened again on that road. This past Sunday night, it was my last night of work before leaving town to come here. And I was driving down the road. It was Sunday night into Monday morning. It was 6:15 Monday morning, October 18th. And I was headed down the road to go to my spot where I run out the clock because I get off at 7 a.m. As I'm driving down the road, it's still dark. I seen the shadow of what I thought was someone jogging coming across the footpath. So I automatically start slowing down. You know how, you wave the person on? I'm literally slowing down. I'm going like this, letting them know, I was the only car on the road. What really threw me off was the shadow that I saw. It wasn't transparent. It was a solid shadow. It came through the guardrail. It crossed the street in a running motion. And when it hit the wood line, it completely dissipated right in front of me. And I'm like, oh man, I never had my camera. And when I gathered my senses of what I just saw, I was in the exact spot where I saw the lady in the hospital gown the first night. But that was the first time ever that I ever saw anything else on that road from when I originally saw her in 2014. I mean, I was completely blown away because I actually thought it was a jogger coming out of the woods, but I saw the shadow go right through the guard, right through the guard. There's my paranormal partner, David, coming up the steps. I mean, I called him. I was like, you're not going to believe this. I know he's so tired because I work night work of getting the 3 a.m. phone calls like this one I just saw, this one I just
You guys have questions, make sure you post.
Oh, that's different. Like I said, Dave and I, when we started our two-man project, we started traveling around doing lectures in seminars in 2017. And one of the most frequent questions that we're asked is, why the hell do you do this? And what made you start doing it? And I think what makes Dave and I click as a good team is Dave is a tech. There's nothing he can't solve computer-wise, technical-wise, all that stuff. And like I told you in the beginning, everything I encounter or I do, I see more from a spiritual or religious side. So I've been wanting since age 9 to write a book. I was one of those little nerdy kids that would read 2 books at night just because I didn't have nothing else to do. And I still enjoy reading. So about 2 years ago, I decided after speaking to Mr. Ted here and a few other people that I was going to write a book, why I do what I do and how I got into this. So basically what I did, I have my book out for sale and it's also on Amazon and Kindle. I started a timeline from when I was like 5 years old. And I led each chapter, it's 18 chapters. It leads all the way up until Dave and I formed Paranormal. So each chapter is a different story as I, progressively grow older. And it's basically just encounters that I've had, that my family's had, things I've read about that got me to where I am today. But the thing with the book that I take pride in is I like to say I'm looking at what I believe is paranormal from a religious or spiritual side, and Dave is looking at it from a scientific side, okay? We're both looking at the exact same thing, but we're looking at it through a different lens. So the purpose of my book is to put both methods out there and try to bridge that gap so that no matter how you look at it or what you're looking at, everyone's looking at the same thing. If you research back, you'll come to the same core problem. Well, I guess problems. The same scenario. You have anything to add, David?
When you're looking at paranormal, go for the perspective of first.
don't try to say it's paranormal. Try to say it's not paranormal first. Because if you use what's called Occam's razor, cut everything else away, and what's left, no matter how improbable, has to be the truth.
Dave and I, we receive phone call after phone call, email after email. My house is haunted. My land is haunted. My business is haunted. And you help us. And when we go into a location to investigate for real, we look at it as, I'm coming to your house to help you. We're coming in to prove that your house isn't haunted. Because there's certain, it's very exciting when things happen. I mean, we've had everything from being touched, scratched, seen, heard, felt. For example, 2 weeks ago, I was at the 1912 Hoover House right outside Gettysburg, Pennsylvania. And I was with Brad and Barry Kling from the show Ghostland. We were doing an event like this. And we were all set up and sitting there. They had a dresser against the wall. And a picture sitting on the dresser. And a big photo of one of the original owners hanging on the wall. Right in front of us, with no one in that room. None of the guests even came into the event yet. That picture came off the wall, cleared the dresser that was below it, and landed on the floor. And at the same exact time, the photo that was sitting on the dresser came across and landed on the floor without it. So none of us touched it. We were completely amazed. And we went and got the owner's hand. And we called her down from the stairs. And everybody standing around those pictures like a crime scene, just looking at it. And she's like, "What happened?" And I explained it to her. And she just looked at us and laughed and said, "Well, welcome to the Hoover House." So we already knew how the event was going to go from there. Yeah, the 1912 Hoover House has an elevator. Okay.
It's about the size of a coffin.
It's like standing in a phone booth. So there was enough. We were hosting an event there, an investigation, and another team from Pennsylvania, Keystone State Paranormal. They're the WLFE radio family with us, Ted. We're all under the same network. Their lead investigator, Dave, and I, we were walking up to the stairs. Walking upstairs, he was giving me like a tour. Well, I heard a man yell. And I'm like, wait. I'm like, they're setting me up. He suddenly wants to take me upstairs, and I hear this man yell. I've been doing this a long time. So the more we start walking up the stairs, the more I hear this man yell. The moral of the story is my partner here got stuck in the elevator and he's claustrophobic.
I'm very, very claustrophobic.
We had no idea he was in the elevator. All I knew was that there's a man's voice coming from inside the walls. And we had it on our, we got a good response. We had it on our radio show.
Oh, well, let me do this. They said, okay, because I got hurt a couple days before I went in, so I couldn't use the steps. I had to use the elevator. I'm like, all you do is turn the little switch on, light it on, close the gate, and push the button. Great. So this, do what they said. I'm going up to the third floor. All right, guys, not funny. Guys, lights go out.
Yeah, but let me interject. The light part, that was me. Because it was freaking out, and I was whispering to Dave, I said, and I'm like,
see this much of the third floor, and through the gap, the rest was like, damn. I'm like, this isn't funny, guys. Get me out here. Then the thing starts doing this. I'm like, y'all ain't funny. You hear him out there going, what do we do? What do we do? I'm like, what you do is get me out of here.
we were thinking of, can you, just, we were thinking of doing a best of David Seiler leaps and blunders video because he is just one of those guys that somehow always gets caught. Last year, a friend of mine from Kansas, she contacted me and said, "Hey, I got an idea for an event, but I need your help." She said, "I want to host what's called the Paranormal Relief Project." And basically what we did, everyone that worked, any type of first responder that worked through the pandemic, we were offering a free paranormal investigation with top-notch investigators all throughout the country. We had a lot of our friends own haunted locations and all that, but we had a lot of people donate their venue. And the objective was on May 1st, 2021, we were going to have a 7 p.m. to 2 a.m. investigation at all the different locations simultaneously. Okay? Now, those of you that watched Lori and Mike's show, Ghost of Shepherdstown, you all remember Nick. Nick now has a radio podcast along with 3 others. And 2 of the 4, Dave and I are very good friends with. The first is Josh. He happens to own Melbourne Manor in Iowa. And the second is Johnny, who is the caretaker of the Villisca Axe Murder, which I never knew was haunted. I researched the Axe Murder House when I was this big. Never knew until 2 months before going there that it was allegedly haunted. What's that? Oh, okay. So Dave and I agreed to help our friend with the Paranormal Relief Project. Now, we were going to be in Iowa at the Melbourne Manor. It was Dave and I, our friend Tori, who organized it, Josh, who owns the manor, and Richard Estep, who's a well-known book author. So we all go up to, we went up days ahead and we spent time at the Axe Murder House. Now comes the night for the big investigation at Melbourne Manor. Well, they have a hallway that they nicknamed the Shadow Man Hallway. There's supposed to be a 7-foot shadow that steps out through the hallway. The second to last door is where he stays. So we set all the gadgets and gadgets up, and people that come there to investigate, they're all excited, and they put a ball in the hallway that when you touch it or move it, it lights up and makes noise.
Oh, hold up. No, he goes like this.
I'm getting to it.
Turns me into Aaron from one of those shows. Dave, open that door down that dark hallway.
We were trying to antagonize the Shadow Man to come out.
Said Dave.
And he wouldn't come out. So I said to Dave, I said, "Hey, I got a good idea. If you want someone to come out, what's the best thing to do? Go knock on their door." I said, "Dave, I need you to walk down the hallway." Now, this hallway is, pitch black. You can't see your hand in front of your face. Now, I'm watching Dave through a night vision camera. We had several different cameras set up. So Dave's trying to act cool and brave, and he's walking down the hallway. He's going to knock on the Shadow Man's door. All of a sudden...
Wait. There's 3 doorways. First two I already picked in. So I'm like shooting the door like this.
Well, as Dave's walking down, and I'm keeping my eye on it, I see the bottom of Dave's back buckle, like someone kicked him or hit him. I seen his back buckle. So I seen his back fold. I heard the ball and saw the lights go off. I heard Dave scream, and then he hit the wall. So I'm like, what the hell is going on? So at this point, he turns around, and he's running at me full steam. So I step aside. Dave goes running around the corner, and here comes Josh, who was filming a documentary movie. and he was filming us investigating. He comes around the corner with his big camera, and Richard Estep is doing the speaking. So they kind of look like, as Dave runs by, he goes, "What happened?" I said, "I have no idea." But what happened was when he was walking down to the Shadow Man hallway, something actually pushed him, which caused him to kick the ball, and then
it went off with lights and music
hit into the wall.
I'm getting touched, and it scared me. I would love it.
So once Dave changed his pants and wiped the sweat off his head, he come back. I was like, I'm going to go down to the Shadow Man room. Well, they had it locked, but there's a break in the door about this much. So I went down, and Josh, the owner, he's filming, coming along, and I stop at the door and I knock on the door. We actually had footsteps come toward the door. Now, I didn't see anything, but we heard, when the footsteps reached the door, we heard, and I just looked over at Josh and I went, "You're getting this right?" And he's like, so we never experienced a Shadow Man. One of the guests was there the night before and actually got him on video. We did see it, and I think it's pretty much legit.
Well, that hallway is where I got the wall. So I'm looking it down, it's like this, down the Shadow Man hallway. All right, cool, nice. And I'm like, I'm filming this in the hall. And I said, "Hey, here, move for those balls," and also off the wall behind me. The ball bounced, went right in front of me. Spun around, no one there. I'm like, "Thanks."
Now, for those that like investigating and going out like this, keep something in mind that at all times, and anybody up here can vouch for this, you have to keep all five senses ready. Because you're not only going to, if you have paranormal experience, you're not just going to see like, "Oh, it's all neat. I heard this." It can affect all senses. There can be, we've been in buildings like this that haven't had electricity for 90 years, pouring down rain, covered by mud. And while we're investigating, all of a sudden, my allergies are triggered from the smell of roses. You know what I mean? So if something's communicating with you, it can communicate using all the senses.
We've had lights on in a building that doesn't have power.
Right.
There's no power in it, it's lights on. And you're like, okay, really?
Most of the good stuff happens at David's. I think they know.
I like a bag or a horseshoe. I don't know what I do, but sometimes things happen.
A few years ago, myself and Dave and Mike King, we were just talking about this. We were at an event in Chambersburg, Mike. It was Chambersburg, Pennsylvania. It was an old movie theater from, I don't know, like the 40s, maybe 50s. And when you go in, it's still set up the same. So we were all there selling our goods and speaking and all that. And later that evening, we had an event, a grand opening event. It's called the Haunted Trails of Gettysburg. And people have this property, and it's the trails that go through the woods. And the trails are allegedly haunted. So we go up there and we do our speech. And then we're leading everyone on an investigation. Well, it was so many people that Dave and I broke off into two groups. He took a group in the basement of the home. I took the group out in the trails, and we switched. So David's in the basement with his group, and I came out of the woods with my group, and I said, "Hey, let's just sit around a fire and take a break till Dave comes out." Well, one of the young ladies from the paranormal teen camp that we sponsor, she was there. They're all mediums. She come running out and she's like, Ernie, something's wrong with Dave. You got to come help him.
Okay, now let's back up 5 minutes of this. Hey, all right, so I'm not a psychic medium. I'm not sensitive. I'm none of that. I'm upstairs in this basement, and the mediums are going, "There's somebody down here, there's voices, blah, blah, blah." Well, one of the young ladies from the SOS teen camp sat down and used my knees as backrest. All of a sudden, I'm hearing voices. Like, I'm like, And she's like, what? I'm like, you don't hear that voice. She goes, what voice? I'm like, ever since you started leaning against my knees, I'm hearing something. And it's, I'm over here. Find me. I'm like, so they're wandering and back in this basement. Next thing you know, I'm like, I don't feel so good. I got up. I was trying to walk out of the basement steps. It felt like my feet were in tar. I couldn't move my feet. And I'm trying to get up these steps to get out. It felt like I'm like a rubber band. I can't move. This ain't me. Something's wrong.
I start making my way over because it was one of the basements where you lift the doors for double doors. As I run up to this basement, here he comes running out of the basement. You all remember the pea soup scene in The Exorcist? That's what it looked like. Dave running out. Just
they're like, Dave, you okay?
He's running out, vomiting. And I'm like, I'm thinking, what now? I can't take this guy anywhere.
They're all up to my business.
The funny thing is somebody's just running beside me. And I'm like, you're filming this, right? You're filming this, right? But I think it's just I think it's his character and his personality. Like the way you see him and the way he acts a million miles an hour, he's like that all the time. Where me, I'm very monotone. You can't tell if I'm joking. You can't tell if I'm telling the truth. I just laugh. But for some reason, the spirits love Dave. We had a medium, which was not I'm saying Dave, Amy Allen. Amy Allen from the Dead Box.
I have a food with that how to think that means. But she's like, yeah, you're gonna have light, so be careful of passes and make it grounded. I'm like,
See, and I think it is Dave's personality. It's just a genuine person. And I think that spirits will help. Now, me on the other hand, being somewhat religious and viewing everything more spiritually, I think when I walk into certain places, they view me as more, I don't want to say godly, but
hostile.
No, just like a bright light. Like I'm not there to provoke. I'm not there to rid you of, and I'm not there to harm you. I'm just there. It all works.
I'm there to have fun. I consider myself a paranormal investigator. He is a paranormal researcher. I'm trying to find the ghosts. He's trying to find why they're there. That's how it went there. So, I'm about getting some gadgets and let's see what we can do to make you go, hey, I'm here. He wants to know. He'll go to the libraries. He'll go to the morgue. He'll go to the archives.
I do the hard work. He does the fun stuff.
I got a question.
Yes, sir.
Question is back when you were talking about the woman with the sunken black eyes and all that. Did you ever think that maybe it could be a part of that whole story of the black-eyed children? Some type of
I did.
Like maybe she was a teenager or something, or
doing the research. I went back on some police files and stuff like that.
You put your microphone close to your face.
Keep it up. Because I had forgotten because
you jumped, Mike.
We write so many police reports. Mike knows how it is a year or a month or whatever. But I guess that was 2014. I think around 2006, we had a lady took her own life by jumping off that bridge. Now, like I said, where I saw her was a quarter mile from the bridge, right? But it's the same strip road.
Did you ever find any correlation with anything there then?
No. I mean, other than what happened with the lady and who she was that jumped.
Right.
But there was nothing that I can, in a concrete manner say, oh, I think that's who it is. I suspected that's who it was, but I can't prove it. And just like I said, since 2014, I observed nothing more except a week or whatever later with my flashlight, except for this past Monday morning when I saw that shadow come out of the woods And it was the craziest thing because when you think of seeing a shadow or an apparition, you're thinking of something you've seen on TV. But this shadow that I saw, I could actually see them. Like I saw their legs, but it wasn't transparent. It blocked out. Like as the shadow approached the front of my car, it completely blocked out everything I was seeing further down the road. And when it got to the wood line, it was just gone like it smoke evaporated. And that was the first time. And that was just Monday morning.
Have you guys ever done like an investigation for that area to see what's going on?
No.
Huh.
We've actually never had an investigation in the county. Everywhere we go lines up being fought.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, I mean, that to me, that's the first thing I would have done. You know, I mean, I'd like to do it now, actually, to be honest with you. I mean, you're thinking 2 incidences. You know what I mean? And other people have too, though, right? I mean, distance, but
is when I saw that lady, I told me, I really did. You know, I was like, I got to find out more before I go talk about this. And then the 2 other people that saw her, they didn't know each other. That security officer works 3 to 11, and the lady, she just takes her mom to the doctor's office on the other side of the parking lot at the top of the hill. So we have no, you know, but it was pretty neat. You know, and like I said,
I mean, it sounds good. I mean, that's what I'm saying. I knowing me and just the way I am with how I tear things apart,
the only
back together.
I got in the TV show was the people said that the actor that portrayed me didn't look like me.
I think that's true.
I will not comment.
Hey, mine didn't look like mine on either one of my shows either. So
yeah.
So, and I have no questions from the live feed. So
Just join us on the investigation.
Anyone have any questions?
You look like ask some questions. One negative. All right. I got a question for you. How many seconds are in an entire year? How many seconds are in an entire year?
I'm going to explain. I don't know either.
There are 12. January 2nd. February 2nd.
Oh my God. Terrible.
Absolutely. They were taking the top of the train for the accident.
Oh, and then we had it was because what happens, Johnny Hauser's a friend of ours, and he knew we were in town. So he said, hey, you guys come on down and get the keys, and you can go in the Axe House. So the attic, where they think the killer possibly was, as small as I am, I had a hard time getting in this attic. Well, Dave, he got
door is this big by that big.
Dave got stuck halfway in.
They're sitting, they're filming me,
and they're filming him.
My backside.
And his pants are coming down, his shirt is coming up.
And they're like, grab that. That's the end of our show.
So, we said, yeah, the ending of our radio show is going to be Dave stuck in the attic. It's going to say the end.
No, but while we were up there, we actually got a PI to start going off promotion. We got several voices up there. It was that place is no joke. We also downstairs on the first inside. It was just me, Ernie, Josh Hurd, and Corey. Sorry, my brain stopped. We're all standing right there. Also, we heard a woman's voice up the steps, and there was nobody else in the place. And we have it on audio and video. So that's what.
Now, if this is really changing the channel, but if you all haven't been past our table yet, stop by our table. We recently took possession of Sandra the dog. And Sandra is alleged to be haunted. She's from Waverly Hills Sanatorium or Sanatorium in Kentucky. So, yeah, she went there to live at night in 1940.
A friend of mine who lived in Kentucky who moved to Washington State calls me up and says, Dave, got a question for you. A friend of mine has this doll and it keeps moving in her house. She's going to throw it away. I'm like, no. Don't just throw a haunted doll out. That's a good way to get it a possession. I said, if you want, send it to me. She's like, on you. She kind of gave me the distance behind. So they sent it to us, and apparently this thing has blood on it, and she gave me the father had some kind of respiratory issue. She didn't have a family to go with, so she had to go with. She contracted a respiratory issue we think is tuberculosis. Passed away with the doll, and the doll just moved on from there to doing whatever. We actually did a video on it as we opened the box when I got it. As soon as the knife hit the box, our equipment, our REM pod was on the table, went berserk the entire video.
The objective was, when we were opening Sandra, we were going to put her in the case where we were going to keep her. We figured, let's just film. We have a cameraman that travels with us. We'll have John film it. It's not for entertainment. It's not for the public. It's just for our files. And if later something, down the road occurs, well, we have, shown this is when we got it, this is when we opened it. Well, we had so much activity when we opened this box, holding this doll, that we were going to get on our radio show and talk about it. And we were like, it's too much. Let's just show it and let people base their own opinion.
Just from what we visually saw during the opening, that was enough in itself. But then when we reviewed the video, the voices we got, the giggling we got during the video, my dog went nuts staring at this dog. We got growling. We were talking about if there's blood on her. We were talking about the blood, and you could actually hear something go, "It's blood." And it's stuff we're not hearing with our own ears. Right. So we went back and actually put her in the cage at the end. You hear a little girl go, like she's content. Really, and once we filled her up in the case that we have her downstairs, we did a follow-up with REM pod and everything else. The REM pod would go off, opened her up, and we had an EDI, which is one of the I put brand new batteries in. 3 batteries, AA batteries, had exploded in my EDI. I can't explain that to this day because I've never had AA batteries explode. I've had them, they sat in a clock too long or whatever, they did that. These all 3 exploded. I had to use baking soda to neutralize the acid. So, I know you got a question. If I ask you people go to the friends, you sit down.
That's why she's not entertainment.
Yeah, you sit down in here. Guess what? I agree.
Well, I appreciate you guys listening to Miranda and listening to our famous David stories. I think, Ted, we ought to collaborate and do a book just on Dave's stories. It'd probably be a bestseller.
Maybe, because we know the movie.
Are you okay?
The movie would only last 5 minutes, but yeah, the rest.
Ted, one quick one. You got this is we got them the story of the vibration.
We're going to do that because we're running out of juice. So,
all right,
we're at another live feed shortly.
We were surprised from a radio
don't go anywhere. Seeing you.
Where we have cool people